Welcome one and all to my YouTube channel, Sermon Time. I'm your host, Pastor Tony Jasper. This is our final installment on wisdom, and I have entitled this message, Wise Men Seek Him Still. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the parable of the wise and foolish virgins and learned that wisdom is making as much room for the Holy Spirit to work in our lives as possible. Extra of the Holy Spirit. Last week, we explored the parable of Jesus about the wise man who built his house upon the rock and learned that wisdom is both hearing and doing the words of God. We need to do everything we can to hear that word and seek God's help in every way we can to do that word. In both of these parables, wise thoughts led to righteous living. We receive a message from God and give His Holy Spirit room to work on us on the inside, and He does. And He helps us to see that work manifest in our life on the outside. Today, in harmony with the season of Advent, we are going to take in a third message of wisdom, the wisdom of the Magi, who saw a sign in the heavens, read everything they could get their hands on, to find out the meaning of the ominous harbinger, and wisely set out to find the one they came to love but never met. Wisdom here refers to the lengths these men went through to come to understand divine revelations to them, and led them to do something quite extraordinary in response. But maybe to get there, I have to go back a ways to where it all began for them. These wise men, these magi, as they're called in the Bible, were Zoroastrians from the lands of Persia and Media. People in their countries were believers. They believed in everything. They believed in reading tea leaves. They believed in reading palms. Of our hand, right? They believed in signs and wonders and dreams. They believed in astrology, like signs and the stars. And they believed in sacred writings. It didn't matter whose sacred writings, they collected them all, read them all, trusted them all, did what they could to follow them all, as these sources were believed to contain wisdom. So these men, one day in 4 BC, were gazing up into the evening sky when they saw a most unusual phenomenon, a bright light, a star. They had never seen it before hanging in the darkened canopy of space, and it took a most unusual path through the night sky. Now, judging from the location of the star, they determined it had risen over Jerusalem. Now, think about that just for a sec. A star rose to the west of them. That's weird, isn't it? Stars don't rise in the west. They rise in the east and set in the west. But these magi were in the east. They saw the star when they were in the east, looking west. And in the opening verses of Matthew 2, we read, Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. So sometime after Jesus is born, the wise men travel west and arrive in Jerusalem and say, We have seen his star in the east. And where did they see it? When they were in the east, in their homeland of Persia and Media, or wherever their sect of Zoroastrians were from when they saw the star. And they came to Jerusalem since the star had, from their perspective, appeared over the land of Israel. In order to understand the sign, the Magi looked up the writings to decipher it. This eventually led them to the Hebrew scroll of Numbers in chapter 24. Where they encountered the prophecy of Balaam. Now, Balaam, for all his faults, did provide us one very important detail about the birth of the Jewish Messiah, that he would be born a king. Here's what he said. A star shall come out of Jacob, a scepter shall rise out of Israel. The wise men understood this to mean that the star they had seen rising up from the land of Israel indicated a king, a scepter, had been born. And this had to be a very important king since such a profound sign accompanied his birth. I mean, no new stars showed up in the sky when I was born. Judging from the gifts they brought the newborn king, these magi must have studied a lot about the king before they journeyed to meet him. The gold they brought is somewhat predictable since they knew he would be born a king from Balaam's prophecy. It's a fitting gift for one with such a high position and stature. But why did they bring frankincense and myrrh? Frankincense was used in the practice of worship in every major religion of the world at that time. Did they understand him to be both God and king? Where would they get an idea like that? And remember now, they are not Jewish. They weren't raised with thoughts of the coming Messiah like the Jews were. They didn't have Christmas pageants like many of us did growing up. And I wonder if they read Isaiah's scroll, especially the part in chapter 9 and verse 6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder, right? He's a king. And his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Now, for a earthly king to also have the title Mighty God and Everlasting Father, this human being born to us, right, given to us, sure seems to have divine qualities, doesn't he? Eternal nature, called God himself. Yeah. Isaiah was shown that the one to be born king was also God. That would be a perfect fit, and it explains the gift of frankincense. But then you have the myrrh. Myrrh was commonly used in the region of to embalm the dead. Its powerful aromatic properties hid the smell of the corpse as people had to deal with the dying body, as people had to deal with wrapping it, as people had to deal with removing the bones and putting them into a box and things like that. What an unusual gift, though, to bring to a newborn baby shower, right? Don't you think? I mean, unless, of course, you had read Isaiah 53. In Isaiah 53, verses 4 to 6, leaves you with the distinct impression that this God King would also be the one who would sacrifice his life to save his people from the ruinous effects of their sins. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, and he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. All we, like sheep, have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. I have a feeling this last verse, this one in Isaiah 53, is what made the wise men truly wise. Why they made the decision to come to Israel personally and offer their gifts to the newborn king themselves. Not just wrap them up and send them by some courier. They endured a minimum of 6.5 months of scorching deserts and frigid nights, 3,000 miles of sandaled feet and oozing blisters, rough rump on camel back, all with one purpose in mind: to worship the God King sacrifice. Matthew 2:2 said, "We have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him." We have come to worship him. We have come to tell the world this one is worthy. That is wisdom. They did not come that far to get something. They came to give something to one who had given everything to them. You know, wisdom today seems to be in short supply. People find it hard to get to church, right? They have to get dressed up, get in their heated and air-conditioned cars, drive 20 times faster than people could walk back in the day. And many times they're like, I just can't do it. And if they do come, they invariably seek to get something. They want good music. They want good preaching. They want to learn good things. They want to hear good preaching. And they want to connect with awesome people. But none of this is the stuff of wisdom. Wisdom isn't concerned with what is received. I'm not suggesting we're not to offer these good things at our churches. I think we should do our best because we're honoring the one who gave his best to us. But the bigger question is, what are we willing to give? How has it happened in the last 2025 years that we have gone to no holds barred Christianity to, can I even be bothered today? I think we're missing something that they saw. They got something we haven't. They personalized the Bible prophecies that foretold the one who would come as king, as God, and sacrifice. And they made it theirs. And when they saw that sign and learned what it meant, they did something about it. That, my friends, is wisdom. The one who would set up his rule for the sole purpose of destroying the rule of the devil over our lives, who would come into our world as God to lift the lives of all mankind to heights we never thought imaginable, whose sacrifice and dying the death that we deserve frees us to live the life he deserved. They came to worship him. What if wisdom is taking in all he did for us, and in response, we worshiped him, thanked him, showed him a little appreciation and respect, served him, told others about him, did what we could to further his cause? What if wisdom is being like him in character, more concerned about giving than receiving? In our sermon on the wise virgins, we hopped over to a second parable where Jesus tells of a man whose guest is arriving in the middle of the night after a long, arduous journey. Not having any food to place before him, he goes to his neighbor's house, and again, in the middle of the night, and demands he give him something to place before his guests. We learned what Jesus was really talking about here. God has sent to us people we need to give spiritual food. To do this, we're going to need the outpouring of God's Holy Spirit to get it done. In other words, receiving the Holy Spirit in our life is not for our sake, so that we can get still something more from God, but rather for their sake. The sake of those we must care for. That's why we need extra of the Holy Spirit. Again, this is wisdom. It seems to me that the wise men who came to Israel to honor and worship and give gifts to the young boy Jesus were cut from the same cloth. They were wise because they sought him out at great expense and difficulty to themselves in order to give him their well-reasoned, deeply loved, and devoted worship. People today can also be wise. You and I can be wise. We can stop and think about all we enjoy, all we have come to possess, all that has opened up before us because Jesus was born in Bethlehem, our King, our God, our sacrifice. We too should bring him our best, go any distance, suffer any hardship so that he knows our devotion and our world has the chance to know what we know and do what we do simply because we love him. I want to wish you a warm and happy Christmas holiday. Next week, I will not be posting a message on YouTube since I'm preaching the same message at the Christmas services at both the Dewey and the Prescott churches this week and next. So until December 23rd, may God be with you all. Bye for now.